Kia ora and welcome along to the Met Service National Forecast for today, Thursday the 18th of May. And as we go through towards the weekend, things are looking pretty unsettled, especially across the top of the North Island. Some stronger winds and some heavier rainfall as we go through the night time tonight and in towards the weekend as well. You can see on the satellite charts a few things to take note of. Down south, a bit more cloud around that eastern coast of, say, Otago down towards Dunedin. There's still some wet weather there. There's still a heavy rain warning for you until about 2 o'clock or so this afternoon. A bit more rain just pushing through on towards that eastern coast. Still some showers for the western coast through there, but up towards the north, you can see this cloud already spilling across the likes of Northland, and that's the herald of some pretty unsettled weather as we head through the night time tonight, Thursday, in towards Friday. You can see on the charts a little bit clearer what's causing that. We've got these fronts down towards the south. There's still that wet weather on that eastern coast for Dunedin, and also on towards the likes of, say, Western, some wet weather there. But the main feature is this area of low pressure moving in from the Tasman Sea, wrapping around that a fair bit of cloud, a fair bit of windy weather and some heavy rainfall as well. Now, on the plus side, this is moving through a lot faster than the rainfall we saw over the last few weeks, but it's still enough to bring some pretty intense bursts of rainfall, and there could still be a few thunderstorms up in the northern parts of us as we go through the night time tonight for parts of Northland. Watch as we go through in towards the rest of the night, Thursday into Friday. You can see that rain spills across the rest of Auckland and Coromandel, Bay of Plenty, in fact most of the North Line as we go through the night time tonight, and even on towards the top of the South Line, generally drier down in the far south. So a bit of an improving story, but we are going to find a pretty unsettled story as we head through in towards Friday. The first little rain clears away, some clearer skies coming in behind it, but you can see that low pressure is always quite close by. And then that rain then feeds down and round on towards that eastern coast of the South Island as well. So even down in the far southern parts, by the end of the day, we'll find some drizzly weather through there. Out towards, like I say, Fiordland, generally a better day, just a bit more cloud. But we are going to keep hold of this area of low pressure, at least for Friday and through in towards Saturday. So we have got some severe weather watches and warnings in place. Now, what we've got at the moment is some wet weather in towards the likes of, say, Dunedin and Otago. That should clear off as we go through this afternoon. So that's the final bits of that warning through to around about 2 o'clock or so. So we should find an improving trend down there. Also for the likes of, say, Western, some wet weather as we go through the daytime today. Head up towards those watches in the north. So watches for both wind and rainfall, and mainly for Thursday night into Friday for Northland, Auckland, the Coromandel, perhaps even for Friday for the likes of, say, the Bay of Plenty as well. And across in towards Tairāwhiti, a warning there for that heavy rainfall in those far northern parts, north of Tolaga Bay as we go through towards Friday, and also a warning for heavy rainfall in those areas west of Motueka on the far northern parts of the South Island as well, for that heavy rain that just kind of wraps around that low pressure and feeds back in towards us. So a pretty unsettled looking story. We'll start off in the north, a fairly wet start today, but you can see as we go through the morning time that rain starts to clear away from the likes of, say, Northland and Auckland, but still some heavy bursts in amongst it, so perhaps still some really intense periods of rainfall, perhaps even the odd rumble of thunder, not out of the question through there. You can see that rain runs across towards even the eastern coast, even down towards Wellington, some spells of rain first thing, but brightening up as we head through and towards the afternoon. We should even find some clearer skies back towards the likes of Wellington and up in towards that Manawatu, Palmerston North, looking like a better afternoon. But with that low pressure not a million miles away, you can see that cloud and the wind wrapping around it. We'll find more showers pushing back in towards that western side. So it is rather a showery end today up across those northern parts of the country. And keep an eye on those winds, although they will ease away as we go through in towards Friday itself. We've got some stronger westerlies back towards us, particularly for Northland and Auckland, as we head in towards the rest of the weekend. Down on the South Island, we are going to find some wet weather, but you know, academically, we've still got some pretty warm air with us. So temperature-wise, it's a fairly warm-looking day. Highs of around about 16, 17 degrees Celsius for many spots, and our overnight lows very mild indeed. Very much a different story compared to the start of the week. But as I was saying, down on the south island, we have got that heavy rainfall feeding in towards the likes of western side of the Tasman area. So we are going to find some heavy rain warnings in there. Also watch for parts of Marlborough and those ranges through there, Richmond and Brighton. That rain spills southwards as we head through the daytime in towards Canterbury and eventually down towards Otago by the evening time. A bit of patchy rain on that on that western side, but you can see there are some breaks in the cloud there. So most of the cloud, I think, out on this western side is generally rather a cloudy story for most of us as we go through Friday, with that wet weather creeping southwards as well. But some heaviest rainfall up in towards Nelson and Tasman. You can see that low pressure still close by, and you imagine those winds just pushing that rain and feeding it through us, a fairly steady feed of air. So there is that severe weather warning out for those areas as we go through Friday and even in towards the first part of Saturday as well. In terms of our temperatures, well, again, it's pretty academic with a fair amount of cloud over us, but it is mild air that comes across us. So temperatures overnight not as cold as it has been, but I think we are going to find still daytime highs around about just into double figures, 11s and 12s. I think a fair covering of cloud for many of us. As we head on in towards the weekend, we'll keep an eye on this low pressure. Watch as it moves across the country. Now, to the north of that, particularly up towards Northland and Auckland, Coromandel, some strong westerly gales, so westerly winds, even reaching gale force at times, gusts perhaps 90 kilometres an hour. So it will be a fairly windy story as this low pressure runs across. Good number of showers behind it as well, and keeping a fair bit of cloud pushing on towards that eastern side of the Southland. As we head on in towards Sunday, the low pressure continues to move away. We're left in this southwesterly feed of air, so it's a cooler feeling day. And we've still got a few showers to watch out for, but the winds do ease off. So it is an improving story through the weekend, but that's not to say there isn't some bad weather around first thing, especially up across the Northland. Some strong winds and some heavy rainfall. We've got those watches and warnings in place. We've also got watches and warnings for the likes of the northern parts of the Southland as well. So there's plenty happening this weekend. So please do keep up to date with the latest forecasts and also those severe weather watches and warnings. You can find all of those at metservice.com.